This is the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla in the 3D Security and Training Academy studios.
You get there, you stop Barack Obama and secure our freedom, and you play hardball.
Stripped. Emperor has no clothes. That's how the New York Post put it. After the GOP tsunami on Election Day, voters across the country spoke out loud and clear against Barack Obama's failed policies. Now, will Republicans learn the lesson from the last time they held the Senate majority and demand reform? Sarah Palin endorsed candidates did very well this past week. We'll discuss all this and more with Thomas Schmitz, the man in charge at American Grizzlies United, one of the great grassroots groups that played a pivotal role in the 2014 midterms. Governor Palin congratulates the Big Tuesday winners. A special happy birthday to Billy Graham. A brand new Commonwealth Commonsense with Susan Stimpson is coming up from Virginia. And just ahead, our latest edition of Steel Resolve with Sarah Steelman in Missouri. Welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. The Palin Update is sponsored by 3D Security and Training Academy. Learn more at 3dsta.com. It was a historic election day this past week as a Republican wave crashed on Barack Obama and liberals across the land. Republicans take the Senate and win historic House gains. GOP gubernatorial candidates also do well, as do Republicans in state races and local contests. The American people spoke loud and clear against Obama. Palin-backed candidates were phenomenal, despite two setbacks in Louisiana, and really only one because the Senate race has gone into a runoff. Palin hopefuls shined elsewhere, winning 17 while losing only one thus far. They're still counting the votes in Washington and Alaska, so when all is said and done, we are likely looking at a mark of 19-4 for Palin-endorsed candidates. Amazing. One of the highlights, incumbent Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, endorsed by Governor Palin. He won re-election this past week, becoming the first black elected to the Senate from the South since Reconstruction. Also, big winners backed by Palin for Senate, Ben Sass, Joni Ernst, and Pat Roberts. For the House, Barry Loudermilk, Dave Bratt, Tom Emmer, Paul Gosar, and the youngest woman ever elected to Congress, Elise Stefanik. Gubernatorial winners, Greg Abbott, Pete Ricketts, Nikki Haley, and Doug Ducey. And Attorney General victories for Palin-powered Leslie Rutledge, Adam Laxalt, Ken Paxton, and Mark Brinovich. Still in play, Clint Didier for Congress in Washington State, and that unity ticket for governor and lieutenant governor in Alaska. Things looking very good for Bill Walker and Brian Malott. Right now, we're joined by Thomas Schmitz, who runs American Grizzlies United, the great grassroots organization that I am proud to call myself a member of. The group supports Sarah Palin and many candidates across the country, as well as the ideas and values that make this country so exceptional. Hey, Thomas, welcome back to the Palin Update. How are you?
I'm good, Kevin. It's been a long time.
Well, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. And what a huge night on Tuesday last week. An election that really across the country went the way of the Republican Party. But as Sarah Palin has eloquently warned, it was really a vote against Barack Obama. What was your take from a guy not only who loves this country so much, but someone so invested in the grassroots movement?
Praise the Lord. It was a great night for people who have been, well, it was a great night for the entire country, but it was a great night especially for people, and you're one of them I include in this, who have been together and working together and helping each other to do something about what Barack Obama is doing to the country since 2010, since 2010, and before that, directly after the 2008 election, so many of us met up on, that first website that Jackie Siciliano works at, Team Sarah, and so many people met there and spawned off into different groups, and organizations were formed and friendships were made, and so many of us have been together since that time, and we've suffered through that time many defeats. We've had some victories, Ted Cruz, we can never stop thanking God for that. But, the other night seems like such a great victory because I kind of feel like over these years together, we've had more disappointments than we've had victories. And, just to put it out there and say it, I think we deserved it. And so it was a great night. It felt good. It still feels good, and I kind of don't like how it's being trivialized a little bit, like that stuff on the cover of the New York Times today that, they can do without that. But yes, it was a great night, and I'm still excited about it, and I've got a big smile on my face like I'm sure you do.
Well, it's a huge win when you say outlets like the New York Times. Look what they were saying right after those results. They think it's time to get rid of midterms. We don't want to have midterms anymore because, it's so difficult for people to know when to vote. I mean, is this amazing or what?
There are a lot of people who enjoy changing the rules, sometimes when the rules would allow better leadership, perhaps, in the country. Some people just they immediately go to changing the rules just to fit their own personal political agenda, which is not the right agenda to move America forward and get us back on the right track at all, that kind of attitude. So I'm not surprised the New York Times did that. They kind of look down their nose at the rest of us, but that's okay. We don't really care what they think, do we, Kevin?
No, we don't. Let's talk to people about American Grizzlies United a little bit, maybe those who may not know about the organization. Tell people what AGU does and also how the approach was kind of changed this year. You had mentioned the other day in a great email that you sent out to supporters about how the approach was different this year. People were still very active, but maybe more in a behind-the-scenes way. Why'd you change up the approach, and do you think that it really worked? Did that have a direct effect on that tsunami that we saw on Tuesday?
Well, I think everyone who loves their country is the direct effect of the tsunami we saw on Tuesday. But as far as American Grizzlies United goes, we had to change because, and I'm sure you noticed this too, I think we've talked about this off the record several times, is that there was something different within the grassroots movement. People were becoming a little more independent and less involved with groups. People had splinter projects, and I'm talking about this in a good, positive way, but it was something that still had to be addressed. And with so many people going off into their own projects and less as a group, as much as we were in 2010, the traditional grassroots 527 model really wasn't going to work for us for this election cycle. And I remember going to I think it was AFP, I can't remember. It was in Las Vegas. Palin spoke the night before, but the next day during the seminars, they told us basically something along the lines of, in 2008, social media was part of the campaign. In 2012, it is the campaign. And so that always stuck in my head. And so right before the primaries started, I think it was after right around CPAC time, we were starting to think about that. You remember when, how every year we make a list and we start throwing names of who we like before we start vetting candidates and stuff? I was just racking my brain. Now, how are we going to do this with, people are not really so much into, making phone calls and knocking on doors and more of the traditional grassroots approach. And there are groups who do that, and they do that well. So I just kind of was thinking, what can we do? And I noticed so many people having their own projects and stuff. And so it just came to a point where it was like, okay, let's do this. And this concept was kind of, I have to give credit to Martha Cano. She's a board member, and when she had her first project, Palin Promotions, her motto was, we promote sites who promote Sarah Palin. So I kind of took that concept and moved it into all of these different grassroots activists and leaders, their projects, and instead of reinventing the wheel, let's just push their project. And, pushing other people's projects and helping with other people's projects isn't really, or usually isn't, very public at all. It's kind of a behind-the-scenes thing. That was one aspect to it. And then the other one was this micro-niche demographic approach that the Obama people used in 2010. As much as I really hate, and you know this about me, Kevin, I hate putting Americans into little boxes. The black box, the Chinese box, the gay box. I hate that. But
the opposite of the Obama approach, right?
Exactly. I hate putting people into boxes, but I noticed how well it worked. And so one of the things that we did, it was very behind the scenes, but it was called the Virtual Yard Sign Project. It was all digital, and there was a little bit of science involved in it. We kind of took a look at the different kinds of activities that people participate in who like a certain type of candidate. And so we just kind of put that data all together. We had some great volunteers who were willing to gather the data and created these resources that we could just, email to, one or two volunteers who had the time and the passion and the love of country to do this. And they would work on these projects where it was totally tailor-made for the candidate that we were trying to support. We had categorized the activities that people like who will also like that candidate. And for instance, it would be things like veterans clubs or archery ranges or shooting ranges or soccer clubs. And, it was very detailed, very specific, and I really want to thank the people who worked on that project, not only the ones who created the resources, but the ones who did the fingers on the keyboard part of it. They did a great job, and I'm really happy and thankful that they did that. That was one aspect, and there was so much going on behind the scenes. There were some troubles early on with relationships among different grassroots organizations and people, and so kind of like doing anything we could to settle that so we could all come together and work together because we all have the same goals. Sometimes we don't agree on the methods and the strategies and how to get there, but our end result is always the same, and that's a better reformed America, a more common sense, prosperous America. We all believe in that. So, doing everything we could to push away those kind of things. Lots of emails, lots of sore thumbs from texting all day and emailing all day on multiple devices. But yeah, it was a very different approach. It wasn't a lot of phone calls and knocking on doors. There are still some states that use that model, but it was much more behind the scenes and just work, but a different kind of behind the scenes work that isn't really seen. And I'm glad we did it. And the end results the other night, whether we played a part or not, I don't care. I'm glad that, like Sarah Palin says, that you don't want to wake up the day after the election and say, I wish I could have done more. We did more. I feel good about it. I'm sure you feel good about it. And I know all our members and members of every organization who cares about this country, they feel good about it too.